How's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you how to remove a Shimano crankset. Now I'm specifically working on a mountain bike. This is a 12-speed mountain bike crankset, but this process will be virtually identical for mountain bike, road bike, gravel cranksets of the last 2 or 3 Shimano generations. The process is very straightforward. It's not going to take a lot of tools. It's not going to take a lot of time. And I'm going to show you everything you need and exactly how to do it. So before we get into the process, here are the tools you're going to need. You really just need 2/3 tools to remove these cranks. So first is you need a 5mm hex. It can be an L key like this, T-handle, your multi-tool, doesn't really matter. Just something with a 5mm hex on the end of it. A ball end does help just because there's a slightly sort of tight angle, but it's not necessary. The second thing you're going to need, and this is a little bit proprietary unfortunately, is that Shimano uses this 8-sided or 8 sort of lobed star shape preload bolt. And so you need a special tool for that, which is a little annoying. Now, there's a couple options. These are both from Park Tool. This one is a small one that has that little attachment on one side, and then it also has a little thing to lift the locking tab, which I'll show you in a second. You could just use a screwdriver for the locking tab, so this is not necessary, but it does have that attachment. Another option is this one from Park Tool. This is a bottom bracket tool, but it also has that sort of 8-sided star thing on the other side of it. So they'll both work, right? You could potentially maybe use your thumb because they're not on very tight, but it really is better to do this with the right tools. And I'll post all the links to these tools down below in case you want to buy these specific tools. And then the final tool, which you might need, but you honestly probably won't, is a rubber mallet such as this, just in case the crankset is not coming out of the bottom bracket shell. But I've really never had a Shimano crankset seize up on me, so this is probably not necessary, but you probably have one lying around the shop anyways, so just in case. So let's go ahead and get this job done. Now, this job is actually best done from the non-drive side of the bike, the side away from the derailleur and everything. So I'm actually going to flip my bike around and I'm going to show you exactly how to remove this crankset. So the first thing we need to do here is we need to loosen up these 2 pinch bolts. There's one on either side, one right here, and then one on the opposite side right here. And so all you're going to want to do is just go ahead, get in there and loosen these up. And I like to do them a little bit at a time. Not really all that important for loosening it, more important for tightening, but just to be safe, I go a little bit, then a little bit, and then you can use your ball end and just sort of loosen them up. You don't have to take these out all the way, just get them loose. And you'll see that now this gap in the middle has opened up. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to remove this preload cap. Now, you'll notice that this is not the actual Shimano preload cap. This is one from a company called Bergtech. I installed it because it uses an 8mm rather than the sort of proprietary thing I just mentioned earlier. And I like that because that way, if I'm on the trail and this were to come off, hopefully it wouldn't, but if it were, I could actually reinstall it. Whereas the proprietary one, there's no way I have that tool with me. So you're just gonna go ahead and remove it. The crank that you have on your bike is probably gonna look like this with this Shimano plastic preload cap. And so again, you have your 2 tools. You can go with this one or this one. They sort of work the same way. You just basically put it in there and loosen. So like that for this one. Or with this guy, you go in like this, and then you just loosen it up like this. So either way, just get this preload cap off, but make sure you do so after you loosen the pinch bolts. Otherwise, you risk ruining the threads that are on here. Next, we need to lift up this little tab here. This is sort of an added safety measure. Now, again, if you buy this tool right here, this has a little sort of hook, which basically you use to lift up the tab like so. It doesn't go all the way up, just kind of like that. That's all you need. If you don't have this tool, then don't worry. You can just use a screwdriver and it'll do the same thing. Just lift up the tab like so. And now your crank should be free. And so basically you can just pull off the non-dry side like that and push through and you can get off the drive side. But let's first flip the bike around and let me show you what I recommend doing. Now, what I would recommend doing before taking the drive side off is shifting down to your smallest cog like so. Then I will go ahead and put some slack on the chain and just go ahead and take the chain off the chain ring, just so that nothing is basically interfering with the crank. Now that we have the non-drive side off, as well as the chain tension release, we can just go ahead and push from the non-drive side and our crank will come out the drive side just like so. and we're all done. All right, so that's it. Shimano crankset removed from our bike. Like I said, this is gonna work on MTB, gravel, road bike cranksets, any sort of two-piece Shimano crankset. This should be the exact same process, especially for any sort of newer models. Just a few tools, a few steps, really shouldn't take you more than 5-10 minutes at most. I hope the video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.